Once upon a time in a small village, there lived a young man who dreamed of speaking English fluently. He would often listen to the tourists visiting his village and admire how confidently they spoke. But whenever he tried to speak in English, he would stumble over his words, feel embarrassed, and give up. One day, while he was sitting by the river, an old traveler named Mr. Lewis approached him. Sensing the young man's frustration, Mr. Lewis asked, "What's troubling you, young man?" He sighed and replied, "I want to speak English fluently, but I find it so difficult. I get nervous and forget what to say." Mr. Lewis smiled gently. "Fluency is a journey, not a destination," he said. "Would you like to learn how to become fluent?" The young man's eyes lit up with hope. "Yes, please," he exclaimed. Mr. Lewis began by sharing his first piece of advice. "Practice daily. Speak a little every day," he said. "It doesn't have to be perfect. Start with simple sentences and, gradually, you'll build your confidence." The young man decided to follow this advice. Every morning he would practice speaking in front of a mirror. At first, he felt awkward, but with each passing day, he grew more comfortable with the sound of his own voice. A week later, Mr. Lewis returned. "Now that you're practicing daily, let's move to the next step. Listen actively. Listen to conversations, songs, or stories in English. Pay attention to the rhythm, the pronunciation, and the way words are connected." The young man started listening to English radio shows and watching movies with subtitles. He found himself getting more accustomed to the language and began to mimic the phrases he heard. A month went by and he was making good progress. Mr. Lewis visited him again and introduced the third step: engage in conversations. Find someone to practice with. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's through conversations that you learn how to use the language in real life. He found a friend in the village who was also learning English. They would meet every evening to practice. At first, they stumbled over their words, laughed at their mistakes, but slowly they started having actual conversations. They talked about their day, their dreams, and their favorite books. Seeing his dedication, Mr. Lewis gave him the next piece of advice: expand your vocabulary. Learn new words every day, but don't just memorize them. Use them in sentences, in your conversations, and write them down. The young man kept a small notebook where he would jot down new words and their meanings. He made it a point to use at least 3 new words in his conversations each day. Over time, his vocabulary grew, and he found himself expressing more complex thoughts. Months passed, and his confidence soared. He could now hold conversations with tourists without feeling shy or embarrassed. One day, he realized that he had not only learned English, but also discovered the joy of learning. Mr. Lewis, who had been quietly observing his progress, approached him one last time. "You've done well, my friend. The last piece of advice I have for you is this: never stop learning. Language is ever evolving, and fluency isn't a final destination. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep challenging yourself." He nodded with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for guiding me." Mr. Lewis smiled. "Remember, fluency is not about being perfect. It's about being able to express yourself confidently and naturally. You've come a long way, and I'm proud of you." From that day on, The young man continued to learn and practice, not just English but other languages as well. He became a symbol of perseverance and dedication in his village, inspiring others to embark on their own journeys to fluency. And so, his story became a testament to the power of practice, patience, and a never-ending love for learning. Thanks for watching. Subscribe my channel.